It is my distinct honor to introduce Lieutenant General Paul Funk. And I will tell you, I've known General Funk for more than a couple years, and matter of fact, have served with him in combat. He has commanded literally at every level, and now he commands the 3rd Armor Corps, probably the most powerful corps in the world, I would say. Right, sir? I will tell you, he is a soldier, an operator's operator, and what you see is what you get, and it doesn't matter where he's at. He can be in combat, he can be sitting behind his desk right now. He is the consummate leader, and it is my honor to introduce my great friend, I have to say this now, sir, Lieutenant General Paul Funk, the commander of 3 Corps. Sir, over to you.
not necessarily in direct fire contact, but right to the edge. That's where the tactical edge now is. That's where we got to be able to do. We got to be able to provide that capability. And it's not just Army capability. Okay, the joint force is fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I went in 2014. I deployed to Baghdad as the 1st Infantry Division commander. And I had to give CPOF and those kinds of things to my Marine friends because they don't have the same capabilities. They have since gone to something like CPOF. But we got to have an integrated joint platform. And then if it has to specifically, if there are some service-specific things, they've got to integrate. So you guys know that, but I'm a big advocate for you there. I also have another one of those things that is near and dear to my heart on Funk's rules, which happens to be never fight a fair fight. What you do through EW and the electronic and cyber capabilities is give me the ability not to fight a fair fight, to achieve overmatch. We've got to continue there. While we're overmatched right now in EW capability, we have to continue to push the envelope. We got to bring that back. We got to focus on it. And then we got to make sure we integrate it into our fires process so it becomes second nature. You know, it is about bringing the power of the nation to bear to solve a problem. Okay, so let me just talk a little bit about multi-domain battle. What I thought I'd do, John, if you don't mind, is I'll just go through all my notes, talking points, and then we can throw it open for questions, as long as you answer all the hard ones. Okay, so, folks, as America's Hammer, and 8 of the 9 active duty ABCTs rest in the mighty 3rd Corps. Multi-domain battle is a huge part of what we're thinking our way through now. So we have to possess the capabilities and be prepared to fight across multiple domains and through contested areas. And we're going to be contested in each domain. And we got to be able to deter our potential adversaries. And if deterrence fails, we need to win rapidly. So, you know, you've heard multi-domain is a concept and it's not doctrine. We're moving to make it doctrine, and it describes how the U.S. military could conduct operations against a sophisticated peer or near-peer threat, and they would contest this from the 2025 to 2040 timeframe. I see it, personally, as movement to contact. That's where I see it, across all the domains. Contact in every form as well. There's 8 forms with the addition of cyber. So I see it, you know, visual, hearing, you name it. So we've got to be able to make contact with the smallest force possible. We've got to maintain contact and develop a point of penetration and open a seam. And then once we exploit that through the use of joint fires and the joint force. Once we've made a seam or found a gap, that's where we got to be able to exploit. And we got to be able to use all capabilities to secure our flanks, forward, and rear. So if you think about it in terms of an advanced guard or a movement contact formation, our cyber force, our EW force allow us the fires necessary to make a point of penetration and then to pile on. And that's how I see it going there. So, you know, as part of the joint force, the Army currently has 181,000 soldiers supporting combatant commands in 140 countries. We've got to be able to integrate across all those different commands, all those different terrains, all those different environments to bring about the power of the nation. Let me talk a little bit about what I think CEMA integration is. I think cyberspace integrates us all. All the warfighting functions operate in cyberspace. And by the way, I don't believe we have a cyber common operational picture and a signal common or logistics common operational. We have one common operational picture everybody feeds to, oriented on the enemy. That's the way I look at it. So we've got to understand that. I think the most often overlooked principle of war is simplicity, to tell you the truth. what are we really trying to do? Well, I painted you the picture of that kid standing on the Hindu Kush trying to bring the power of the nation. That's what we're trying to do, bring the power of the nation to a point of penetration and to compel our adversaries to give up or to negotiate for a peace. Simplicity allows us to do that. So when everybody's tired, cold, hot, wet, thirsty, you name it, in a contested battlefield across multiple operations, our systems simply have to integrate. And it has to be easy for the signal soldier to do that. Currently, that is not the case. If you have to have a PhD to operate something, that's not effective. I think you'll see that, we continue to work at the combat training centers, we're continuing to see, if it's taken us 72 hours to put our command post into action and they integrate all the various systems from voice, digital, you name it, that's not effective. We've got to be able to put these up, take them down in 30 minutes. The chief's probably has been very clear about that. So our system's got to integrate that well and that quickly. And then they got to be able to move from domain to domain and environment to environment. Look, there is some science to this. I know that. I know that, beyond line of sight. I know that, there's all kinds of physics involved in that and all that. But at the end of the day, if you ask me what I'm looking for a simple system that allows me to bring the power of the nation to bear to defeat an enemy. That's what I'm looking for. And that it becomes, and if I can talk, we can win. That's kind of the way I look at it. So we're going to have so let me just paint you a little picture just so you know where we're going. We're getting ready to go over and be a CJTF for AIR again. We'll have challenged distributed headquarters, 70 coalition partners, and joint teammates. We got to be able to harness the resident capabilities. For example, Five Eyes, in a unified effort across a common operational picture. That's not hard. So I see that, my goal is for our cyber and electromagnetic activities efforts to be able to degrade, disrupt, destroy, and manipulate the operational environment. And I see defensive cyber operations as one of Funk's rules. The number one rule, as a matter of fact, is securing yourself first. And then I see offensive cyber operations as the ability to influence, to maintain the initiative, both lethally and non-lethally. So how can you help me? I need you, I know we're all looking at this. I need joint interoperability. I need command posts that are small, secure, undetectable, and rapidly dispersible. Integrated and enabled by a network to fight now. I need an integrated above core level common operational picture tool that is collaborative and enables the commander's visualization of the fight. I need solutions that are simple and intuitive and don't require field service reps, to be very blunt. Because the lethality on the next battlefield is unlike we've seen. If you haven't seen any of the studies of what's going on the Ukrainian battlefield, of what's occurring across Syria and Iraq, what we're seeing in the Philippines and out in some of the other pieces of the world, today's battlefield is incredibly lethal. We were talking battalions of motorized forces destroyed in 3 minutes. We're talking about fires put on with UAVs across the spectrum. Off-the-shelf UAV technologies that allow the enemy to put fires on us so we can't go to our COPS, FOBs, and OPs, and we have to secure ourselves in other means. So, the other thing I would ask you is that help us understand the art of the possible through a full realistic lens so that we can innovate, we can leverage your innovation. That's what I need from our partners out there. So with that said, John, I'll pass it back out to you and ask anybody who wants some questions, and I'll field any questions you have. I talked for about 20 minutes. I think that's probably more than you wanted to hear. Back to you, John.
Okay, sir. My name's John Rutt. I'm pulling the questions in off email, and we have a number of good ones. And the first one for you is this: as the Army is working towards multi-domain battle doctrine, what steps has the current force taken towards those ends currently within the active force?
Well, I think we're all integrated. First of all, we're all in the conversation. You know what's happening at Fort Bliss. You see what's going on down there at Fort Bliss with the NIEs and AWAs. So I first say we're experimenting there. I say that we're getting much better at integrating across the warfighting functions and kind of breaking down the walls of the silos of excellence. And I also see us at Fort Gordon and Fort Huachuca working our way through this so that we understand the capabilities and the tools. We put a task force together to help in the, a joint task force together to help in the cyber arena and to help in the media world too. So I think we're making a lot of progress towards this. I think it's more of a evolution than a revolution, but it is in fact moving in the right direction.
Okay, sir. The next question is this: there is a movement underway in the Army to integrate future electronic warfare with intel versus fires. Does that make sense from the warfighter perspective?
See, I think we're looking at it the wrong way there. I don't want to look at it as integrating with just one. I think it's got to be a cross-domain and it's got to be cross-warfighting function, focused on the maneuver piece of this fight.
Okay, sir. Next question. Do you have what you need in terms of seeing the enemy in the cyber domain?
No.
So that's a great answer. So we got a lot of work to do. Sir, the next question is this: do you plan to bring back the core experience in this next deployment to help build the Army's competence in multi-domain warfare?
That's a great question. First of all, both the world famous Steve Townsend and Sean McFarlane before him have the AWG over there now looking at mega city fight in Mosul and what lessons can be learned there. So I think we can learn through the by, with, and through doctrine that we're using or TTP that we're using right now. I think we can absolutely learn about multi-domain battle, at least in cities, through that lens. So what I would tell you is TRADOC is already out front through the AWG and through the guys from CALL, working very hard to get those answers. So I think we're in progress. We're gladly part of that conversation for sure.
Okay, sir, next question. Can you describe how you would leverage cyber and electronic warfare capabilities to deliver information operations effects to influence adversary commanders?
No, but for whoever asked that damn question, they're more than welcome to come over and apply it for a year. No, I'm kidding. We're going to use a fires approach. We're going to use an integrated approach. As a matter of fact, we'll do both lethal and non-lethal targeting boards. We'll use those kind of capabilities and bring everything to bear to do exactly what you just talked about. I'm telling you that I think we're only scratching the itch of what's possible in the IO world in terms of non-lethal capabilities. And so we're going to learn a lot about that this year. and I look forward to it.
All right, sir, thank you. Next question. After deploying back into Iraq as the first ID commander and now as the third corps commander, do you believe we are able to communicate with our coalition partners effectively?
We're getting better, okay? We're getting better, but I think when I was the one ID commander, it took us like 7 months to allow some of our partners to get on the network. So we have now a better capability, but it's still not there yet. We've got to be able to bring our partners. Yeah, it's pretty frustrating when nations send their very best people to these fights, and then we can't use them because we can't leverage their knowledge or their capabilities because we can't get them on our networks. So we've got to be better there. We all got to be able to talk if we all want to win. Go ahead.
All right, sir. Next question. Of late, the Army network has had a lot of attention. What would you like to see in future Army networks, and what changes would you like to make?
I would like to see simplicity applied to the problem, to tell you the truth. I know we're going back to it, we're really looking at it, we're focused on it, we're going to take capabilities we know work now, maybe that's some that aren't quite ready, but may have some promise and use them in the future. But personally, I would like to say simplicity. I think I described it relatively well with a kid standing on the Hindu Kish. If he can do that, and we can move the power of the nation, that's what I'm looking for.
All right, sir, next question. Are your commanders able to operate in a degraded state of communications as a trained competence? Let me say that again. Are your commanders able to operate in a degraded state of communications as a trained competence?
Well, with the complexity of the network, they're in a degraded environment most of the time, so the answer to that is yes. However, I think what we're applying more recently is, in fact, learning through the CTCs, through some of our signal universities that we have on our great camps, posts, and stations, where we're trying to work through that. I think we got to get back into that a little bit. It goes all the way back to map reading and, actually calling for fire with using, grid reference systems, et cetera, because we are going to have to be able to operate in a GPS-denied environment, or at least a GPS-disrupted environment.
All right, sir. Next question. Could you comment on what you see happening in cyber electromagnetic activities integration into your planning process?
Yeah, actually, like I said, we're going to go to a lethal, non-lethal targeting board and integrate it there as a cross-domain function. That's the difference. People are actually understanding it much more and really applying a networked approach and, in fact, a integrated approach. That wasn't happening 3 years ago. So I'm encouraged by that. I think we still have to train our young men and women at the company troop battery level on what it means to operate in that kind of environment. Because let's face it, they haven't had to. Back in the old days when General Morrison was a two-star general and I was a lieutenant colonel. Back in those days, we actually had grid reference systems. We worked on what to do in a nuclear, biological, and chemical environment. We talked about our TTPs in terms of focus. So one of the things we got to continue to explore is, do we have the authorities right for people to allow them to work through this as quickly as they used to? We got to work on some authorities. There's certainly as it applies to the cyber domain and what we can do and what we can't do and at what level. So the power of that is pretty significant. Over.
Okay, sir, next question. Do you share the idea of the scenario that a cyber capability in a certain operation is the supported unit, supported by maneuver or special operations forces?
I'm not sure.
Okay, it's this way. Got it, sir. The next question is this. Every soldier is a rifleman, so too must every soldier be a cyber defender. How do Third Corps soldiers train to keep individual systems patched and defended? How are soldiers and leaders held accountable?
That is in itself is a great question. I see it another way. Every trooper's a scout, but that's just because I'm an old broken down cavalryman. What I see is, by the way, good units do routine things routinely. I believe that this is a routine function, and it has to be checked. And it's leaders checking soldiers to make sure that those kinds of systems are in place. Patches, networks, bringing things up and putting them down in the motor pools so that we get the patches straight and things like that. Those are the routine things that I like to see done routinely. That's where we're going in the 3rd U.S. Corps. We also have taken the approach through getting to our Mission Command training centers so that we can bring in and put patches in through there. So it's an integrated approach. We're by no means experts yet, and I would say that what's been great is the cyber force, the red cyber force at the CTCs has really caused us all to take note of this and to really focus on our networks. But it goes everywhere from command maintenance to doing some sort of integrated simulations exercise at a Mission Command training center that allows us the ability to keep our networks strong.
This will be the last question, and then you can follow up with your final thoughts for us. In the past 10 years, we have seen a shift to commercial off-the-shelf technology. How do you think that has affected the complexity of the network and the need for integration?
Did John Morrison put that question in there?
Of course,
I
sir.
think, yeah, naturally. Okay. So what I think is commercial off-the-shelf is the way to go. I think the development piece takes too long. Our acquisition process takes too long. Now, this is just Funk's opinion, but I think that commercial off-the-shelf, if you take, for example, Moore's Law, I mean, this stuff's going to change every 18 months. How the heck do you equip a force that's 1 million men and women strong with the power to move a nation if it changes every 18 months? That's a daunting task. And so, John Morrison's the right guy for that task. But if we can take capabilities, apply them to a problem, and then keep the baseline of the network moving forward, I'm good with that. I want to be able to have the best. For example, I think a defensive tool ought to be change faster than our enemies. I'm not sure anybody else is exploring that. We're defending everything, and when you defend everything, what happens? You defend nothing. So if you change faster than our adversary, who knows, 5 years from now, we may be all carrying cell phones around or some sort of device that has a chip that we change out every day, and it has all kinds of different multi-spectrum capabilities that the enemy can't keep up with. That'd be okay too. We just got to remember that when we put it in the hands of our great troopers, they'll find a way to use it effectively. We just got to get it to them a little quicker. So that's just Funk's opinion, not the 3rd U.S. Corps or anybody else's but mine. So I think now that was the last question, and I get to sum it up.
Roger, sir.
Let me just sum it up this way. I want you to remember, it is the ability to move the power of the nation that makes us the greatest country in the world. Our ability to go across all these different environments to apply combat power where it's needed and necessary is, in fact, we are the only nation on earth that can do that. Our advantage is you great professionals and how hard you work to make the maneuver commander successful and how well you apply the tools that we collectively bring to the fight. I am immensely proud of everybody there. I know that the signal community and the cyber community, and as you guys continue to merge together and form what is the SEMA backbone, I believe that you are incredibly powerful and are building combat power every day just the way you apply the resources to the problem. So in the 3rd U.S. Corps as America's hammer, and when we're downrange, there will be problems to solve. I believe that I'm still convinced in the non-lethal arena, across cyberspace, certainly in the information space, we are challenged and being pushed. We've got to remember that this coalition of 70 nations, is on the side of right and just. With that, I thank you for your time. John, thanks, my great friend, for allowing me the opportunity to talk to this august bodies, even though you're there. And thanks a lot for everything you do every day to bring power to the nation. Thanks.
Please welcome to the stage Lieutenant General Bob Wood, U.S. Army retired, Executive Vice President, AFCEA International, to formally thank General Funk on behalf of AFCEA and our audience.
Hey, sir, can you hear me?
He's got you.
Hey, sir, yeah, I see you haven't lost any of your candor. I'm glad you held back on us. But thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit there and share your thoughts. I can't thank you enough. And I do know one thing. There's a whole bunch of parents around this nation that are going to sleep a lot better knowing that you're in command of their sons and daughters in harm's way. Thanks for all you do, and if there's anything you ever need from us, just let us know. Thank you much, sir.